When you hear the words N64, Pokemon, and console, your first thought is probably of the Special Edition Pikachu version, and that makes a lot of sense considering it has a sleek, unique design and custom outer casing that really makes it stand above the rest, not to mention all the interesting things that it includes, such as of course, Hey You Pikachu and the microphone attachment, but also a custom controller that could not be bought separately, and even a talking Pokemon watch that I do not believe could be found anywhere else. Whether you're a Pokemon fan or a Nintendo fan, this is certainly something that is an awesome addition to any collection and is naturally very sought after today. But what many people may not be aware of is that there was actually a second Pokemon related bundle released for the Nintendo 64, and that was the Pokemon Stadium Battle Set. This is very different from the Special Edition Pikachu version, as the console included in the box is actually just the typical gray Nintendo 64. However, it's the goodies that come in the box that make it quite notable. This time the game included in the box is Pokemon Stadium, although rather than a Special Edition Pokemon controller, this time only the fairly common Atomic Purple one was included. Other items in the box include the N64 Transfer Pack, as well as a few interesting pieces of documentation, including the Pokemon Trainer's Journal, which I believe is a booklet that could not be obtained anywhere else, which includes tips for Pokemon Stadium. So with that said, I think that this is a very interesting box set, and one that deserves a closer examination. So what we are going to do is open it up and have a closer look at just what is going on inside. Although the reality is that it is actually sort of just a souped up version of the 64 console with the Atomic controller with Pokemon goodies. So let's have a look. So starting with the front of the box, we can see that it is an enlarged image of the picture that appears on the front of the cartridge, as well as on the front of just the box for the game itself. There is also French attached to all of the English, indicating that this is the Canadian version of the box, although it is exactly the same as the American version, with the exception of that. Also on top, we have the title, as well as a couple of pictures of Blastoise, although things get really interesting when we flip it around to the back, and we actually get an enlarged version of the art that appears on the front of the Japanese copy of the game. I cannot think of too many places where this appeared, considering they went for what I would consider the more bland image that appears on the front of the North American version. So this is actually a really nice kind of image here on the back. It also goes over some of the items that we're going to be examining in a minute when we open up the box. And this really gives you a feel for what you can expect when you get Pokemon Stadium. So now it is time to have a look at what is inside the box, and the first step to that of course is to pull out the big styrofoam block which holds the console and its accessories. Consoles these days all come with cardboard inserts rather than styrofoam, so it is, really nostalgic always to open up a box like this. The first thing that of course you notice with the styrofoam out is all of the paperwork in this plastic bag, and it is really hefty, but we'll look at that in just a second after we get kind of the more basic things out of the way. Following that, we have, of course, the basic gray Nintendo 64 console. It really is a shame that they couldn't have, included a special Pokemon-themed one after they did such a good job with the Hey You Pikachu one. There are also, of course, AV cables. No HDMI back then. The power brick. It's your typical N64 power brick there. Your typical gray N64 controller, and of course the game itself. Unfortunately, the game does not come in its box or anything like that. You just kind of get the cartridge inserted into the styrofoam, so that's a little bit disappointing. I think it's always more fun when games come in their actual packaging inside the box. However, there is a little bit more in there. Of course, you might have noticed that we did not see everything in that styrofoam block, which was listed on the front of the box, and that is because there is actually a cardboard insert kind of hidden in there outside of the styrofoam, which houses both the Atomic Purple controller and the N64 Transfer Pack. Alright, so with the console and controllers out of the way, next up is looking at the paperwork, and this is by far the most interesting part of the Pokemon battle set, as there are definitely quite a few things in there that, unless you got this set, you have probably never seen before. Although also, of course, a couple more common things too, like the manual for the Nintendo 64. But here we have, a Store 64 kind of pamphlet. And this was, back in the day, you could mail in and order all sorts of Nintendo-related gear. T-shirts, bags, cases for your games. That's not something that's exclusive to this bundle, but I mean, it really is nostalgic before just being able to go online and order whatever you wanted. That was the way to do it. This, however, is quite interesting, and it is a Blockbuster coupon which you could take to them, and you would receive a free poster and some money credit that you could use to take your games to one of the Pokemon printout sticker stations that would be in the Blockbuster store and print out your snapshots from either Pokemon Stadium or Pokemon Snap, which is very cool. Here is a Pokemon Stadium advertisement in relation to Nintendo Power, where, of course, if you signed up, they would usually send you some kind of free item, and in this case, it is advertising that they would send you the free guide for Pokemon Stadium. And you just get some interesting art on there. Even flyers are fun to look through. Just kind of the art, and it's clear that, they put some effort into making these things. Here we have the cool Porygon Pokemon trading card game card, and at this time I believe it was only obtainable through the set, although I think later on you could also get it through the Pokemon League Club, so it's kind of obscure, but there's quite a few of them out there too. The typical N64 kind of, caution guide, everything comes with one of those. Well, I guess not these days, nothing comes with anything anymore. Of course, the Pokemon Stadium manual, since the box was not included inside of the bundle, the manual for the game is just kind of thrown in with all of the other paperwork. And of course, just the N64 console manual itself may be interesting to some people, but for the purposes of this video, it's not something we're going to really skim through. This would come with any version of the Nintendo 64. But here is something that is definitely quite notable. Again, the trainer's journal mentioned on the front of the box with Psyduck on the back. And yeah, this is just a really interesting book that I do not believe was obtainable anywhere else. Written by the good guys at Nintendo Power, and it just goes over the different Pokemon that appear in the game, different parties that you can form, and just basically strategies for doing well. It also mentions some interesting things like how to get Pokemon to use in Pokemon Stadium that you might not really realize, such as how you could get a Gengar, which is level 20 and thus able to enter the under level 20 sections of the game, and you can do that by catching a Haunter in Pokemon Yellow at level 20 and trading it, although otherwise there's not really any way to get a level 20 Gengar, because normally Ghastly evolves at level 25. So you just get some interesting information like that in this book. It also sometimes references Pokemon and how they appear in the anime, which I don't think people realize this, but whenever people mistaken Red for Ash, that's because back in these days when Pokemon was new, there was almost a melding of the game and anime universes, so it was just so natural to think that Red was Ash, and this book definitely gives me that kind of vibe as well. Also, of course, advertising www.pokemon.com back when the internet was new. Look at that screenshot of the website. I am totally nostalgic for web design of the late 90s and early 2000s. Way better than just the way too much white space we have going on today. And here we have another interesting item is a Pokemon poster, which I believe you could only get through this bundle. And it's really interesting for listing all 151 Pokemon of the time in their 3D models. Usually when you see a poster like this, it's their more cartoon models that you see in the anime, or of course, the art from the game. But this is actually quite interesting. I think it's neat seeing all the Pokemon in their 3D forms. And at the bottom, of course, you once again get that image of Blastoise and Charizard having a battle, which is, it's kind of goofy, just looking at it like that, not on the front of anything. But, someone clearly really liked this image, and it is just everywhere. So with that said, we have looked at all of the contents of the Pokemon Stadium Battle Set N64 bundle. I think that's really fascinating because it's just not a bundle that you're probably, going to go down to your local video game store and see, or, you've probably never even heard of it. So I thought it'd be fun to, let everyone know just what's inside there in case you want to keep an eye out for it, for yourself. And that Blockbuster ticket, oh, that is just so nostalgic, of course, both because Blockbuster no longer exists, and just the fact that you used to have to take your cartridge, to a station at a store in order to print out stickers. that is just such a neat concept, and one of those things that makes me just look back at retro gaming with such fond memories. So I hope that you enjoyed this. This is my first time, making an unboxing video like this, so I hope that it went well, and I might make some more in the future. I think it's really fun unboxing, particularly uncommon things like this, like the Pokemon battle set, and I probably, I have some other boxes of things you've probably never seen open as well, which I may get to in the future. But yeah, please let me know what you think of this down in the comments below, and I hope that you enjoyed. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time for something different. So thanks, and see you later.